Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News, and I'm your host, Ellie. And here's William. I had to pull him up real quick. So, William, we were on the phone, and while we're on the phone talking about today's show, we got this breaking news. Trudeau has resigned. I said, "Oh." And he told me where he found it, and we went, we grabbed who said it. We went and looked, and it wasn't there. Folks, be so careful of clickbait is what I call it. I don't know what William calls it. I call it clickbait. It says, "Hey, this is happening." You click on it, and it has nothing to do with what is they are advertising for their opening. Now, I have to admit sometimes I have messed up and didn't do the big um, what I have had on my titles. Uh, so hopefully, Karen, you got to catch me on that. Yeah. So, uh, what do we have going on with Trudeau? Well, we found out India Prime Minister for Trudeau. Um, they found hours after they were asking him, basically Canada saying, "You're wrong on this Nazi stuff." Uh, right after what was going on when they did they liked this guy, 98-year-old. They found cocaine on the plane, Trudeau ambassador type plane. So now they're looking at him, and they are asking him to resign. Some are, some are like me and William. Where'd this come from? Who, the, who they had to get this from somewhere, and they had to get the idea from somewhere. And me and William has thrown it up in the air on why now. Why did Trudeau decide that he's going to honor a 98-year-old Nazi? Is it to, uh, was it to, we have been trying to cover up the whole Holocaust here in the United States and over in Europe. And for this to come out, or is this a continuation that they wanted to see what the public felt? Was this a trial run? Was this real? What made Trudeau and his head of parliament speaker decide to cherish and love this guy? Um, Now, William, I know you've got plenty to say on it, so I'll go ahead and let you go at this.
So I went in the military and we fought a Cold War. They call it a Cold War. Um, Sorry to the ones in the Cold War that died, but yeah, it was a Cold War. Anyhow, because of this 98-year-old puke, right? Berlin was divided for 40 years. Because of this puke, right? All these people died that didn't need to die. The United States had to push back on the Soviet Union, the Cuban Missile Crisis. A lot of that may not have happened if Russia didn't have to march, three-quarters of the way across Europe to take half of Germany because of this puke. Just 20 million Russians died. What was it? 250,000 Americans died, plus all the ones that were wounded. D-Day, having to fight all the way across North Africa. Then the alliance they made with the Japanese attacked us at Pearl Harbor, started because of that puke. So now, was it a trial balloon by Justin Trudeau? Probably. He's probably one of them. How else would you do that in the middle of Parliament. And here's another thing. England, or Canada's part of the Commonwealth. And MI6 knew darn well this was going to happen and was happening, and nobody said anything. And nobody here in the United States has said anything about it. I'm not in the least pleased.
Well, when we talked, really nobody is talking about this. Everybody's kind of quiet on it. And you have to wonder
the
why.
SS were right up there with Stalin's KGB, right? Sick puppy.
Now, another thing we talked about was the fact that with nobody really talking about it, could it be this came out as a don't look at what going on in the United States, let's look at Canada. Or could it be, like you said, MI6 knew about this? So why did they do it? And is it because of everything going on in Canada, and Canada is falling, the United States is falling, but we're talking power-wise. And this
Is
was
this like the next step after transgender, right?
they're not
Really
even talking
messed
about
up
that no
stuff.
more. That's what gets me. Transgender isn't being mentioned anymore. When they found out the transgender movement wasn't really all for Biden after all, they quit talking about it. I mean, I look the news every day, and it's just not there. And so, if we have this, the Speaker of the Parliament, I guess, is the one that hours after he honored this guy, he resigned. So he knew, William, he was wrong. He knew there was going to be backlash. And then we see, well, when I ran Trudeau resigning, what I got was that there was a late night meeting that they were going to fight back. They were going to fight that this guy needed to be honored. Well, now they're talking another nighttime emergency meeting to lick their wounds and find out what they're going to do to calm the world down. Even Canadians went after Trudeau over this.
So my thought is, I'd like to be in a room with them with no windows for 20 to 30 minutes. Well, seriously.
Yeah. And
he owes all those people that are buried in France that never came home, all those at Arlington, all of our veterans. He owes us all a direct apology.
Yeah.
Plus, an apology to all of Canada.
Well, Canada, Israel, we talked about this right before we got on. Canada, for one, Israel, Poland. And I say Poland because I knew of my great aunt was Polish, or her husband was Polish, and they had kids, and they were taken out in Auschwitz. So, what about all? It's Germany, it's Poland, it's Austria, it's Israel, it's wherever Jews of even the ones in the United States, those that had to endure Hitler's rage, mental rage.
So the United States was isolationist. And because him and his group, right, his love fest with that group, we became a reluctant superpower. And we've been tasked with keeping the world from boiling over ever since.
Well, William, they have been trying to wash away the Holocaust for decades. And the other thing I mentioned is maybe the reason the United States isn't responding is because we, when Germany fell, we took a lot of the scientists, and the scientists is part of a big program that we had as far as space and um, weapons and their ideas for the Air Force. And so really, do we have a ground to complain? But I think we do.
Well, those scientists had to renounce, and most of the scientists were just, scientists doing what scientists do. But this guy, he was the number 2 guy in the SS after the guy that got the SS started in Ukraine. So he was the number 2 SS guy of all of Ukraine. Do you know how many Russians died pushing through there, pushing the Germans out?
Well, the narrative they were pushing, it was that we were fighting with Germany to go against Russia. And that was the narrative they were pushing. And I think that's what's going to get them caught. And big apologies because we weren't the UK. Nobody was really with the Russians to go against or any.
So
Go ahead.
So Russia wouldn't have become a superpower, and the United States wouldn't have become a superpower if it wasn't for the maltreatment and hideous expansionary ideas of the Hitler regime, right? They caused all of that. They caused what we're dealing with now in China. Everything that's happened since 1930, 736, is on these guys' heads.
It sure is.
There has been a lot of suffering done in behalf of stopping that ideology.
And the Susan said Trudeau knew about this. Yeah, I did. I think his prime minister did also. There was a reasoning behind it. There was somebody that directed him to say, do this.
No. They're believers. They didn't see a problem with it. They're true believers. They're part of the cult.
And we're going to. And William's right. There is. What is really going on around our globe? And me and William talked about this earlier. Is we got this little bit going on with the Nazis, but then we have the United States, and we have a president now that his own party is turning against him. We have people that he put in power, like we were talking Blinken. We hadn't heard from Blinken in a long time, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But then we have a Ukraine, a failure of a war. NATO now is looking at Poland and Europe. They're saying, you know what, we need our oil, we need our gas, which is not the objective of not only NATO, but the World Economic Forum. And we're seeing, is it a quiet because all of this is going on, or is all of this going on that everybody is realizing that we're not going to push the button, we're not going to send nukes, we need to re reevaluate what is going on globally, and the leaders that have been directing us are wrong.
So the people that are on the switch, the military people that are on the switch, they go home to their families at night and they come back to work, right? And they know if they throw that switch, their families are gone. I want you to just let that soak into your head. If they throw the switch, their families are gone. And they will do it in a heartbeat if directed by the President of the United States. And so will the Russian military if the leader of Russia requires that. It's not a joke. And if one goes up, right, one goes into space and starts its way back down, everybody's going to fire everything they have. Otherwise, they won't have the opportunity to retaliate as they're struck by weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody that has weapons are targeting everybody else that has weapons. And the idea is to neutralize as many of those weapons as you can. It's mutually assured destruction
Mm-hmm.
on a planetary scale.
But if we look at
And these Nazis think it's okay to play with this monster.
so well, the other thing
Hide
they're
behind
playing
the
with
scenes.
though is, William, is we now have Zelensky running around country to country to the UN begging for more money. So not only do we have what we're just talking about, but now we have everybody saying no more. You're not winning this war, and not only that, but uh, we need gas and oil, food for our own people, even defense. They're saying what they're using is the defense, and they need to defend their own countries instead of sending weapons to or money to Ukraine.
Yeah, they didn't bother saying that though when the United States was dumping half their arsenal into Ukraine, right? And now what do we have? Germany, all right, Germany, where all this Nazi crap started, 3 days ago, signed a deal with Russia for LNG, liquid natural gas, to be shipped in. After the sanctions, after the war, after all that NATO's had to contribute.
Yeah. Well,
So NATO.
NATO is, the big thing with NATO though is they're griping. They put in hard for two years, but what they're not really letting the people know is that NATO, Europe, Britain, United States, and others are allies. This Ukraine thing's been going on since 2013, when everybody was starting to send them millions of dollars. And now that they were going to go beg it from Congress. Congress said no. They went to beg it from the UN. They said no. Poland and Europe is saying no because we need to defend ourselves. So where does that leave Zelensky? Except for going home licking his wounds, right?
There needs to be diplomacy someplace, and Zelensky better wake up.
Yeah.
But they're part. Here's the problem: they're part of the cult, right? They have the golden blindfold on, running around. They're like, Hitler was still telling his armies what to do and air forces what to do in Russia after they've been destroyed.
But who's Zelensky to be any type of leader to talk globally that they need to come cause a nuclear war with Russia.
Well, that's the problem with these guys is there's no end to it. They believe that it doesn't matter what you do as long as you get the outcome you want, right? You can justify anything in the end. It's unended. So
now,
they
with
head
this,
down this road of destruction, and there is no end to it. It's the same as communism. There is no end to it.
now, William, would this be a push from the what is it called, industrial and military complex?
So it's let's be honest, it's the congressional, military, diplomatic, banking complex.
Yeah.
It's and we've had so much consolidation, right? Including pharmaceuticals. Let's don't forget them, right? That there's interlocking board of directors. You can't have three companies in each different industrial sector, right? Controlling everything. They're a cartel at that point. They're doing the exact same thing as the cartels do in Mexico, except with the product. Right? That's time for trust busting. That's time for shattering them into 1,000 pieces, like we did with AT&T.
Yeah.
And we're there. So there's a huge disparity between the rich and the poor, which is fine, right? If the rich don't decide to dominate the poor, but they are. They think they're special. Why do they think they're special? Because they're listening to this crazy Nazi over there. What's his name? Klaus Schwab. He can only be a Nazi saying what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just going to take everybody's right to go anywhere, to see a doctor, to even have the right to your own body as your property, right? That's subjugation and extermination. No, that's not okay. Hey, Klaus, we're coming for you.
Yeah. And with him, we're looking at even global climate with Kerry, and now we're starting to see Kerry getting frazzled. He's not doing the speaking arrangements he normally does. Now, some of the other politicians are, but it's just to save grace for their own political agenda. But what we're seeing with um, uh, uh, Bill Gates and others like Poland and uh, even I think it's France saying, you know what, maybe we were wrong. Maybe we need the oil, gas. Maybe we need the farming. Maybe we might even need a automobile plant um, to keep the crude oil cars going.
So they're going to dominate the world. They cause this big monetary contraction. Then they're surprised, right? They're surprised because there's this hideous migration coming out of these poor countries. Well, they want to eat, they want to breathe, they want to survive, right? So, and they come into Europe. Here they come out of Africa. Here they come out of South America.
Mm-hmm.
The Venezuelans coming into the United States and getting a special dispensation so that they can't be deported, right? And they get a work visa. They're communists.
Yes. That's something a lot of people don't realize is Ukraine is communist, folks. They're they were socialist, but they weren't communist, and that was one of the reasons why the Ukrainians and the Russians fled in 2016 to Crimea, where it was socialist. But a lot of people don't realize that socialism is huge globally. I mean, because we even had our own administration came in and said they were pushing socialism, and it was socialism into bigger and broader ideas of the Socialist Party. And what do we got out of it?
The reason why there's democracy in the world is because the United States, right, had to go in and referee between the Axis powers and the communist powers. We had to do the Berlin airlift because we had to referee, right, between the two. We had to go in and actually save Germany from famine after the war.
Mm-hmm.
We rebuilt. We sent the money to rebuild Germany. We sent the money to Russia so that they didn't starve from famine.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know,
then
the other
we
thing.
had to go all over the world, right, keeping the peace because of all these ideologies that festered out of this university out of Germany, right? Marxism, Engels, these were, the number of deaths in the 20th century caused by these two ideologies may be bigger than, you know, if you went back to the 1500s, everybody that was born before, that many deaths in the last 100 years because of these two ideologies. No, they're bad. They're evil. This is what evil looks like.
Well, yeah, because you know we have. Yeah, I have told the viewers since the Democrat Party came to uh, the beginnings. It was a one-party system, and the Whigs interfered, and the Republicans. And what people don't understand is, and William, you'll probably catch on to what I'm saying is, if we have a one-party system, that's a dictatorship, and that means if whoever they want voted in will get voted in, and it'd be way worse than what we're seeing right now. And if we say no, well, let's go about a different way. Let's elect one person like a king or a queen. We ran away from that with the Brits. So, what is the choice that's left for our country? We know that we can no longer. The Democrats hate the Republicans. The Republicans hate the Democrats, and they all hate independence. They all hate. I don't even think they want a democracy, William. They say and yell democracy, but it's not.
Well, they get hijacked. They get hijacked by the momentum of the system, right? They're still hijacked in Congress because of the momentum in the system that started during World War II so we could win World War II.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't turned it off yet.
No.
They haven't turned it off yet. And they're getting consumed by the tractor action of these two sick, dangerous ideologies. I'm serious. These are dangerous ideologies. They will kill you and your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have an off switch. I've just been too strident. I apologize.
So, um, so you know, with NATO, the Polish Prime Minister Morawiecki Wiki, I think is his name, um, uh, summoned Ukraine's ambassador related a fresh war of words, and they argued over blocked grain. And I talked last hour on the whole grain thing, and the whole how do we release the grain from Ukraine? Well, of
So
course, I believe one of
although
the
they were
ports are
slapped both
blocked.
sides upside the head, we've given both of those countries so much stupid money, right? And now they're crying over spilt milk.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up.
Well,
right?
the World Economic says, "Shut up about your grain, uh, your alfalfa, your everything about what we are going to need to be sustainable." They said, "We'll just replace it with bugs." Uh, it's
They
not
just need to be
funny.
smacked up beside the head.
Yeah, and see,
It's
I
like,
think, and what I tell you earlier, I said I think Klaus Schwab is freaking out. He says he's going
well,
to do away
here's
with all the meat. He's going to put bugs in the flour. He's gonna, and it was like, oh, dude, calm down.
he keeps going, and William's gonna.
But I think
No,
he's freaking
seriously, there's
out.
gonna be a William out there that's gonna do it for him,
Um,
put him out of his misery.
and
He's headed
with
that direction.
Bill Gates and Poland and Europe and us and everybody and the normal person that now is looking at, you know what? It's going into the winter months. We're going to stay warm. Screw you. And I think that's what everybody's just going, "Nyet," the middle finger at Klaus Schwab, and well, there could be another pandemic. They're warning, and everybody's like, we're going to live. We're gonna eat. We're gonna live. We're gonna can. We're gonna. When you threaten a person to the point of nothing, they come back fighting, and I think that's what we're starting to see in Europe. I don't know so much in the UK, as it caught on here, but I think once this winter hits and people see their bills and they hear, oh, you can't have your water heater, you can't have a space heater, you can't have this, that, you can't have red meat, you're going to eat bugs. I think eventually we're going to run them out of town. Klaus Schwab, that is.
Well,
I think we're going to run them out.
there are people that are literally that dumb. Okay, we got people running around with 80 IQ. Okay,
Yeah.
so it happens, right? But there are other people running around with higher IQs, right? And they're going to stop this thing because they don't want to be extinguished. And if you're at the top thinking you're going to extinguish all of this, think again.
That's right. If it isn't, I was thinking earlier that William, if it isn't Ukraine, it'd be somewhere else. They'd find somewhere else to put this whole scenario through.
They're good with lies, they're good with pennies, right? But when it comes up against it, when the guys show up with the bullets, then all of a sudden, they're, oh, no, we'll go along with you. Yeah. They're cowards, first of all, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, they're dangerous. You can't tolerate them in civil society. They'll wreck our civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't care about it.
No, they don't.
If you're willing, if you can buy into this cult, you're nuts in the first place. You have to be seriously off.
Yeah. If you don't agree with what the changes and what's going on globally, because it's not anymore. It's not just, you know, how we talked. It was Russia, 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 or it was China, Taiwan, Ukraine. Now Canada's jumped in there, and now we have um, different countries backing out of agreements that they had made. Kerry running scared, and then now Blinken. It's Blinken, Garland, and uh, is it Johnson? I know
So
I.
we've got a problem with the presidency, right?
Mhm.
Well, let's just be honest about that. We have a problem with the presidency, and I'm not going to disparage anything, okay? We have the administration running around trying to figure out who's next. Now, Hillary's got new hair. I don't know if anybody's noticed.
New hair and facelifts, some fillers, and
yes.
Yeah. But you know what?
Yep. They're talking about parachuting in Big Mike.
Oh my good. You know, and she's oh, I secretly talked to the president, and she's throwing herself out there. Me, I follow her around and say, "What about the boys? There's no statute of limitation on murder." And a lot of people will question me on this, and they said, "You know, we're finding
there's
out."
Not a statute against these people's children
that
are going to run as well.
Well, you know, the whole thing is, it wasn't just about the boys, okay? The thing about what the Clintons did was when they took all this to Washington, it was about, let's sell secrets to China, let's sell secrets to Russia, let's start giving money to Iran. Uh, we need uh, we need a boy or somebody, and I know African Americans hate that word because of LL Cool J right now, but they're like, we need to find somebody that we are stupid enough to believe that we can change our Supreme Court, we can change our dynamics of laws that's passed, we can change the schools, we could change the media. All of this that you're seeing, they did here. And
look, we don't have to change everything because Klaus Schwab's having a bad life.
That's right. Yeah.
So 6.5 billion people do not have to change everything because Klaus is having a bad life.
Yeah, and
here's my message. Here's my message to Klaus. Tough shit. Get on the boat the rest of us live in. Shut up.
Yeah. Quit. You know, and if you go to the World Economic Forum site, I try to stomach it once a week. And it's like, oh, we're doing all these great things. It's like, then if you're doing all these great things, why are you so eminent in destroying the United States and other countries with policies that he knows will never work, with changes to our food industry that won't work, climate change that isn't working, the EV cars. Boy, folks, I got to tell you, when you are seeing these cars exploding and catching on fire in some of these videos, they're all EVs. You hit them, they explode. Like remember the Pinto, William? I had one. And
yeah, the rolling bomb.
Yeah, the rolling bomb. Well, that is exactly what the EV cars are. They are a ticking time bomb waiting for someone to hit them so they can explode into flames. And not only that,
the problem with the EVs is they keep on exploding.
Well, not only that, but when you wreck them, they fall apart. You'll die in these things. There was never any safety issues. They were in such a hurry to put an EV car out there. They didn't look at safety. It was just my opinion.
They got in such a hurry they couldn't even bother spot welding it. They just started gluing them together.
Mm-hmm. So,
they literally started gluing the cars together.
Yeah.
So all the panels got glued together, because they didn't have time to spot weld it. It was too expensive for them or whatever. If you have to put that many man hours into a piece of junk, over what? Peer pressure?
Yeah.
And that's what it boils down to. These ideologies use peer pressure to move people around and get other people to do their dirty work based on lies and pennies. And so many lives get destroyed in the process. Even the peacekeepers' lives get destroyed in the process because these people cannot leave it alone. So great. Germany, the people of Germany sacked Rome, and Rome fell. Rome was king of the earth for 1,000 years.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing. Germany didn't recreate something that lasted 1,000 years.
No.
All right?
It was an idea.
They still haven't. They never will, because they're like cats. They can't be herded.
You know, the whole thing with Germany, and we have this Ukraine war, and then we have Ukraine, then it's Poland, then it's Germany. Germany, William, was one of the first ones that decided they were fed up with NATO, and they had to take care of their people. And then Poland was next, and then some of the other ones. And what I'm starting to think is now they're refusing. They're not going to give them weapons. And
so they have these democratic socialism, right? It's not just socialism, but it's democratic socialism. So they have a parliament, an upper and a lower house, you know, kind of like the United States. And this was developed in England, okay? It wasn't just developed here in the United States. This happened due to the Magna Carta, right? So first the King of England threw off the church. He gave away the divine right of kings, right? And so he became the king of the Anglican religion, right? Which used to be Catholic, so that the king could remarry. And then the king lost his power, all right, due to the commoners rising up, and they instituted a parliament, and there was this document written that was signed called the Magna Carta. And it started to give people rights over their own bodies that they never had before.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it made its way to the colonies, and when they decided to be unruly with us, we threw them off with the help of France. Thank you, France. All right. And we looked at all of civilization, all of recorded history, and we figured out a system that was the very most stable and least likely to collapse, and led by the people rather than by a few insaniacs at the top, right? And so we have a president in the United States that we can get rid of every 4 years if they start to go mad with power. But they don't have that in the rest of the world. So the United States, because we've had the freest economy, we've built the most wealth. And because of that wealth, Europe hasn't had to build its own defenses. The United States paid for that. When the Federal Reserve comes and wants to do this and that, and they give us interest rates and everything else, that money is going to Europe.
Going to other countries, no matter how much.
They've lived off us for a very long time, and we haven't imposed tariffs on them hardly at all.
No.
So these socialist countries can't defend themselves because they're too busy being socialist and having top-down management. It's not efficient. It's not adaptive. It doesn't produce wealth. The United States has produced more wealth than any country in the history of the world. All the world has benefited because of the United States' wealth. We have been so generous throughout the world that the rest of the world's got to the point where they think that it's owed them, right?
Mm-hmm.
We fought the war, we won. We owe nobody anything. But we do it because we don't want to have to fight that thing that we had to fight in Europe here at home. But there are crazy people like Klaus Schwab and others
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes, I'm not going to mention, and they know who they are, right? Who would like to see that
William,
happen in the United States.
What if it, we have to look at, let's not just blame Klaus Schwab, but when we have meetings, private, secret get-togethers like Bilderbergs. Now we know these are the top dogs that's making a lot of these decisions that for the world. And why should we change what we are doing? Because let's say India needs more money. It's
Okay,
not about us
Europe gives
supplying
more money. The United States doesn't need to. We
Right.
can go our own way. But we won't, and it's good that we won't. But don't come in here and say that we have to be destroyed, because we're not going to tolerate it.
Yeah. And, I want to move back to Blinken and, oh boy, I forgot the guy's name. But Blinken has disappeared, and you were talking Andrea Newland.
So now we haven't heard from Vicki Newland. We haven't heard from Jake the Flake Sullivan.
Sullivan, that's what I was thinking.
And the instability is causing, guess what, over there in Armenia. Yeah, so Samantha Powers had to take an emergency flight from D.C. yesterday to Armenia to try to stop a genocide.
Uh-huh.
Because now these people just wanted to live in their religious community on the top of the mountain, and they're Christian, and they're surrounded all the way around by Muslims, right? And the Muslims say, get out or you're dead. So they're getting out, right? And then they decide to fire on them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they're Christians and they offended them somehow. And so we've got this gal, Samantha Powers. Now, she's a nice enough gal, She's been educated. Her family came from Ireland, but she's not an imposing figure.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to stop a genocide, you send a Colin Powell. You send somebody that scares the bejeebers out of the people that want to do, right?
Yeah.
Because these warlords, these countries, can only be moderated by fear. If you allow crazy people to get to the top, right, then it's just crazy people at the top. Most people don't need the power. They can make their world work all by themselves. They don't need somebody else to do the job for them. But there's a few people that are basically inept and entitled that think everything should be given to them. We got news.
Mm-hmm.
They can be packaged.
Yeah. And
we had this one guy called, what was his name? Ben Laden.
Yeah.
He got packaged.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Don't come kicking around the United States. It's a bad idea. Look, the United States is full of all the very most aggressive people from every corner of the earth. And you want to poke that hornet's nest? Seriously?
Yeah. And well, we have, when we look at not just what we're seeing with Zelensky and Ukraine, but then we have to look at BRICS as a whole, and Iran giving. They're all trading missiles and drones and whatever launchers, whatever they can do to strengthen each other up. And now we got Iran with drones. And I was telling William folks that they have created a new one that can stay in the air for 24 hours. And he says, well, will it? Because you could shoot it down. It's not like invincible.
Well, you can put a drone up. Can you keep a drone up? I mean, there's that also. There's the yin and yang of weapons, let's call it.
Well, see,
so,
I guess
they want to give it to Gaza. So they want to give it to Gaza.
Yeah.
To incite the Palestinians. And if Gaza is getting and the Palestinians getting, you can bet that Putin sent his ambassador down and said, "Where's our share, guys?"
Yeah. And well, it's odd when we seen that everything was really starting to get heated up with Russia, but then Russia met with China, and then they met with North Korea, then they met with others and then they all started sending things to them. They're talking like, look at North Korea. They are pretty much now going after South Korea, and South Korea says, well, we seen your nukes, we'll up you one. So me and William both agree, we don't think there is going to be the pushing of the button of nuclear. We think everybody is kind of sitting back and reevaluating, because we got Trudeau that could fall, we got Biden that could fall, we have over in Germany and Poland the NATO now being pushed back, and they're not too happy with NATO. We got Russia that it could be changing geographically what we have seen in the country. Oh, no. So, well, go ahead.
So if you have the weapon, it changes the way you think about everything. You have to reevaluate all of history. You have to reevaluate how the future goes forward. You have to become an adult, or you're initiating your own self-destruction. And everybody around you in a 10-mile circle, it changes people. If you've ever had to stand next to one and be responsible that nobody else got to it, that it wasn't tampered with, that it got to the right place in storage, that it got hung on the right aircraft, people for 40 years standing alert with nuclear bombs hung on birds. Do you know what that burden is? This isn't funny, this whole changing of history. The United States felt it had to develop it because the Germans were going to develop it, according to Einstein. And Truman dropped it. It has given us the peace we've had in the 20th century, although it's been so lethal with these terrible ideologies. But if we hadn't had this thing with these terrible ideologies, we'd already fought a couple more world wars.
Yeah.
So people are willing to go and man the switch after lunch. They go to the office, they strap in, literally. They man the switch with the guy next to them. They're both packing 45s, so if the other one refuses, right? This isn't a funny thing.
No. And
William,
the one thing, North Korea, they went and they told the UN that the world is at the brink of nuclear war thanks to American hysteria. So, it's probably propaganda.
We had this group that wanted to dominate all the planet and exterminate everybody they didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
So, look, guys, if you were brown, with black hair, okay, so how many people are on the planet fit that bill? These guys were going to take you out. If you were Jewish, these guys were going to take you out. If you were the type of Christianity they didn't like, they're going to take you out. Until they finally take each other out, right? Because once it starts, they can't stop it. There's no mechanism to stop it. The United States had to step in and stop it. And we've been stuck with this mess ever since. It's affected us, our parents, our grandparents, everything we do, the way we do it, the fact that we have interstate roads so we can move our weapons quickly across the country in any direction so you can't attack us from any one direction and we can't resupply. That's what the interstate was created for. Then there's this whole culture based on that, right? We've lived through all of this and we don't even recognize that it's because of these terrible ideologies that we can't be just planting food and living a decent life, moral life, right?
That's
a pastoral life is because of these animals.
Yeah.
Because of it, we've had to go through one iteration after another and keep up with it. You go to a university, you go to college, you learn a new skill. Just as soon as you learn it, it's time to learn another one, right? Because the old ones, it doesn't matter anymore. So we're in this never-ending lunge forward, trying to keep up with the technologies because of war.
Yeah.
War caused by these two ideologies.
And I asked William, I asked you about the military-industrial complex of maybe that this was what is causing the push of all these countries at war, even like Armenia.
So I'm going to tell you a big secret. All right. Well, I want everybody here in the United States to understand this. We are the military-industrial complex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you are a restaurant. You're feeding people that make things for the military-industrial complex. You get on airplanes that got their technology because of the military-industrial complex. We are the military-industrial complex. It's our responsibility to moderate Congress.
If they let us. The other one I wanted to hit up real big is Smartmatic is been implicated in a bribery scheme. Now, who is Smartmatic but our voting machines? Now I wanted to get that out because it was a very small article, but very big in explaining that they are now starting to see that it's hackable or it's addable. And I did a show of, boy, William, it was, what, about a couple of years ago, Karen? Probably the last election, where I was telling everybody about that it's only as good as it can be locked up. And if it's not locked up, then you can change. You can change things. So now they've got a big problem. They have less than a year, they say, to fix these machines. I'm not going to tell everybody to vote paper. Vote how you want to vote. But just be careful. Just be careful. And if you see somebody that it doesn't look right, act right, turn them in. Just turn them in. So
there's no guarantee your vote will go through the system.
That's right.
Without checks and balances. And if there's paper, there's at least a trail. But if it's just electrons can be anywhere for any reason. All you have to do is direct them. There's no evidence.
Yeah.
Create some evidence of your vote.
And as we're looking at the right now, I don't even think the normal voter cares at this point. I think everybody is looking at the uncertainty of the globe. It's overwhelming. Because, when I talked to a friend of mine over the weekend, and he said, I'm so worried if Iran doesn't get us, North Korea is going to get us. If they don't, then it's going to be Russia, it's going to be China. And I'm like, whoa, dude, I don't even think we're that close. I don't believe that with propaganda, there you go, with propaganda that's put out, it is only to have you worry about this or worry about the world and don't look at what they're doing behind the scenes. And I think there's something, me and William said, there's something going on and we can't put our finger on it. Something is...
They don't want you to think. They want you to react. Then they can control you.
Yeah. But, we both agree there's something, it's like, you feel the pot just stirring and you can't quite put your finger on.
We're kind of at a simmer, and we don't know whether the pot is going to change and go flat, or the water's going to stand up on end and shoot in the air, from boiling. We're just at that point. Is the world going to boil over? Well, no. We've been to this point over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
The difference was there wasn't social media, so the rest of you got left out. And went through life thinking everything was, okay.
Yeah.
And it was as okay as we could make it. So it was okay. But it's just time for another realignment. And when the people are ready, right? You've heard me say this before.
Mm-hmm.
A leader will stand up. A leader will stand up. If they knock down Trump and it upsets the populace, there's
still going to be somebody that's going to, in 50 years, there won't be Trump. there's going to be somebody else, 20 years, or even
If
8 years.
if the bankers want to deal with a Marine or a Special Forces soldier, somebody's going to stand up, right?
Mhm.
And if they think Trump is terrible, a guy that made his money, renovating and then building and then having a pageant and then a show, right?
Yeah.
If they think he's terrible, wait until they run into a commandant.
Yeah, or a dictator. The thing with Trump, folks, I know everybody is upset that he was charged. What I want to tell everybody is it's not criminal. There was when they went after him criminally for this, it wouldn't stand. So what they had to do was go after him civilly. It's a civil suit, and civil can only go after your assets. He can't be put in prison. His friends aren't going to get put in prison. Anybody that was a part of it, nobody gets charged and put in jail. This just goes after your assets, and all he has to do is file an appeal, and everything stops. Everything stops. They can't touch his stuff.
Just in New York.
Yeah.
It doesn't apply to the rest of the country.
Yeah, and I looked at some of the documents, and I think it's kind of stupid because his whole thing was, oh, he said Mar-a-Lago was worth 400,000, and the judge did her own appraisal, and it was only 18 mil. But you look at the homes in that area, and something not even an eighth of the size of his is going for 40, 50 mil. So she's got it wrong. She said she was going to get him and his little dog too. As long as he gets.
Here's what they're really doing. Here's what they're really doing. Okay, they have a metropolis that is made out of concrete and steel, right? They have just told everybody who has real estate in the metropolis, we can come and take your property and we can come and take your license. Now, do you want to do business there? Do you want to do business there? That's like do you want to do business in Beijing now? That's the message they're sending to builders. They're hurting themselves. They're hurting the country by playing this let's play politics with laws.
Yeah. So, well, William, do you have anything and you want to add? I know we didn't get to half of what we talked about, but
well, the one thing I want to say is the United States is a very deep-hulled ship. Yeah, we get thrown on our side once in a while. We even get rolled once in a while, but we always right ourselves. It's just the way we are, and
yeah,
things will be okay. But it's going to change our futures. It's going to change what our children do. It's affecting all of us. We are that complex. When Eisenhower talked about it, most people were farmers and stuff. Most people were agrarian. No, it's not that way anymore. It's an industrial machine. We feed the world. We protect the world. We support the world. We do everything in our power to keep the world from boiling over and coming to our shores.
Mm-hmm.
We do pretty good, considering. But there are a few bad apples that are willing to sell mine and your sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
That's unforgivable. Yeah. It's okay to trade and do business, okay? I'm not talking about that. But if you're selling the power of the United States, that's unforgivable. puts people up on the gallows anymore. But you're gonna have to do some time. I don't know what the statute of limitations are on selling sovereignty, but we've caught others that were spies and were selling our sovereignty, and they did some hard time.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that, eventually you're going to get caught, and don't do that.
So
now, if you want to do business and help make the country richer, more profitable, and more resilient, and more adaptive, God bless you, right? And most people are that way. But there's a few people who hurt the rest of us.
Okay.
It happens in all societies. But here's the thing. Most people are good, and because of that, they speak up. And that's what we've done here. So like, subscribe, comment, good, bad, and different. And we love you, and we'll bring you the information we can find every week.
Mm-hmm. And tomorrow will be me and Lee. I'm going to bring Lee in. I got to call him up probably earlier in the morning and have go over what we have for the show tomorrow. So come on back tomorrow and with me and Lee, but also the weather and lifestyle news. William, great show. And I think everybody's learning with our shows of what's really going on in our country. I don't think I've seen anybody that goes around the world with the news. And then, of course, we do certain things like special programs where we show military equipment that could be very knowledgeable to know how it works. One of these weeks, I sent William a video on nuclears, and to show you basically their whole idea of if one nuke is sent, how everybody would respond. And I think that's why nobody's going to push no button just yet, because they know if one does it, everybody's going to do it. And when everybody does it, and there's a massive amount, there's nobody left. So what leader wants to say, do a political suicide because their feelings got hurt? I think that's kind of where we're at. So, all right, William, great show. We'll be back next Wednesday for the World War III report. If you like this show, come on back next Wednesday. If not, or I should say, or join us tomorrow for more news and weather and earthquakes. And so have a wonderful Wednesday, and be sure to catch us tomorrow, and like and share and ring my bell. And that way you're notified when our shows are on. Okay, so with that, William, I'd fist bump you if I could. We had a good show tonight, and I appreciate you being here with me.
The nice thing about our show is we get to do analysis on the news too, and we're not the best, but we're right most of the time, and I just want to say thank you for letting me be included in your show.
Well, I'm enjoying it. We did have the puppies in here. I don't know if you've seen, but the puppies got in, and I'm kind of watching them right now. So keeping them out isn't happening. So every once in a while you'll see them in with me, and hope you enjoy the doggies. With that, everyone, come on back and watch our show. And thank you very, very much for watching.